So Legends ZA has been out for a bit now, and let me tell you, there is not a Pokemon fan alive that is not currently racing to try and make some kind of content about the game. Everyone and their mother scrambling to make videos to keep that content train a-pumping, showing us all the collectibles, new shiny hunts, competitive battling, new megaforms, DLC speculation, story analysis, and of course, can the game be Nuzlocked? Now, as much as I would love to do some kind of lore breakdown video about the implications this game has for the overall Pokemon timeline, which believe me are pretty insane, I think we can all agree I'm at least slightly more qualified to answer the Nuzlocke question. Though, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, the answer is less than positive. Let's keep it short for the people who click off after 30 seconds. Yes, the game can be Nuzlocked. No, it isn't hard to do. And also, no, it isn't even fun. But maybe you've tried Nuzlocking the game for yourself or have been watching others that are. And maybe there's enjoyment to be had in the way that you're playing, and that is awesome. But I can confidently say that it's not a challenge I would ever personally enjoy doing. And so, I don't plan to. At least not right now. Not with the way things currently are. Legends ZA changes a lot. Everything, really. Everything we thought a Pokemon game had to be just isn't true anymore. And that is causing a lot of people to be really excited, including yours truly. But some of the ways the game handles those changes are also being viewed with some understandable controversy. Let me break down a fun minor point as an example. There's some discourse going on right now among shiny hunters for the new shiny hunting methods, which involve just loading in all your shinies in an area and they never despawn and it takes no brain power whatsoever. The game literally does all the work for you. Shiny hunters want to feel like their time is rewarded appropriately, you know? And maybe an hour of walking up and down staircases makes that work feel somewhat invalid. On one hand, people are loving the fact that shinies are more accessible than ever, and actually fun to try and hunt down. On the other hand, I understand that it may feel like there's no point to getting 30 shiny Pokemon that you didn't even put effort into hunting. Not to mention at least 8 of those are probably Litleo. Howdy everyone, my name is Keeper, and today I wanted to make a video to discuss a little bit about the new Pokemon game Legends ZA. There will be some minor spoilers discussed as the game has been out for about a week now, but nothing not officially revealed. Saving all of that for my next video. You see, akin to the shiny hunting example we just went over, I'm facing a similar issue with the idea of Nuzlocking this game that I just don't see anybody else talking about. The combat in Legends ZA is extremely handholdy. There are only a small number of actually meaningful fights in the game that you have to take on alone, and when you break them down in that way, they really aren't too difficult to plan out for. But we're also not going to be talking about those just yet. My issues come from the main draw of the game, the main point of the story, the most repetitive part of it, and that is the rogue Mega Pokemon battles. These fights pit you against an enlarged raid boss straight out of Pokemon Go, requiring you to spam attacks, which causes them to drop Mega Energy, which you then use to be able to Mega Evolve for yourself. Then your Mega Evolutions are actually capable of dealing real significant damage to the monster that you are facing. The problem is, yes, the game does put you in a situation where using Mega Evolution is faster, but even the game itself recognizes that it isn't strictly necessary to do. Time consuming as it is, you can actually beat rogue Mega Pokemon without ever Mega Evolving for yourself. Which is great, because actually my first idea going into this was doing some kind of Nuzlocke challenge without using Mega Evolved Pokemon, right? I mean, that sounds pretty cool. At least it did, because the idea stops being cool when you realize it's just a slog to get through as many battles as they expect you to over the course of the entire game without using the one tool they gave you to speed them up. Sounds interesting on paper, but in reality just makes me want to slam my head into a desk as I achieve the same result as Little Timmy, but 10 times slower. But that's actually a minor grievance that I have with these fights. The part that really irks me the most is that in every single one of these rogue Mega Evolution battles, well, except for the tutorial one, but you're not even allowed to use your own Pokemon there, so I don't think it really counts for much of anything, you're paired with at least one teammate. And this teammate does damage to the Mega Pokemon as well. Not a lot of damage, but damage nonetheless. These rogue Mega Evolution battles enter you in with a Pokemon already sent out ready to fight, and your partner is exactly the same. But there's nothing stopping you from just recalling your Pokemon. This is something I thought long and hard about during my first playthrough of the game, and I had to put it to the test. So here is footage of my 47-minute Mega Victory Bell fight, where I stood still or ran in circles, occasionally dodged, while Naveen did all of the work. Towards the end, I did let Absol get in a few hits because I was just so tired of waiting and didn't want to be there for an hour, but it's still a successful test. My first question was obviously if the NPC partner actually dealt meaningful damage, and as slow as it was, the pace was steady. My second question was if this changed between phases, since the Mega Pokemon gets angrier and moves a bit more aggressively in the second half after you've, taken out the first half of its health, but the answer is still no. The partner damage stays the same. And then the third and most pivotal question, could your partner run out of Pokemon? And the answer is also no. Each one of your teammates has 3 Pokemon, at least in the first few fights that you do with them, and if all 3 of them faint, they just start cycling through the same Pokemon again. And for the footage that you're seeing specifically, I had to put in a lot of effort just to get Naveen's first Pokemon KO'd because the Mega Pokemon only really care about attacking your player. Ally Pokemon, and even your own Pokemon most of the time, are only in harm's way by complete accident, at least most of the time. And the final question, could the partner KO the Rogue Mega? And the answer, surprisingly, was no, they can't. When down to their last shred of health, the Mega Pokemon will endure the hit, unable to fall until a player's Pokemon deals damage to them. I did think that this was weird, but it's not that hard to find an opening, send out a Pokemon, and then get your last hit in, Now this is boring, but it is optimal. And do note that I'm viewing this through the lens of what would constitute the rules of a traditional Nuzlocke. I'm going to be using air quotes a lot in this video, I just realized. I make a point in these challenges to play within the constraints of the challenge, but in creative ways that often abuse the game's mechanics that they take place in. Creative problem solving is a skill I think we could all stand to practice a bit more, including myself, which is part of why I made this channel in the first place. But coming up with an answer, even a creative one, doesn't always leave me satisfied. And this is one such case. In a traditional hardcore Nuzlocke, there are really only a handful of rules. 1 Pokemon per route, faint equals dead, no items in battle, level caps. Essentially, you're required to beat the game using the limited Pokemon you're given access to, restricting the workarounds to problems that you would have that make you otherwise overpowered, forcing you to find new and creative and tactical solutions to the problems that you face. And of course, if your Pokemon faint, they are gone forever. You just kind of lose an answer that may have helped you later in the game. But the Nuzlocke as an idea, as it exists now, does not work in Legends ZA. It's a game where putting a Pokemon in harm's way is largely optional. In every other mainline Pokemon game, even Legends Arceus and hell, some spin-offs if you wanted to, I don't know, Nuzlocke Mystery Dungeon or something. These rules work because you cannot progress without using Pokemon. And thus, the Pokemon you use are always at risk of fainting. Those games necessitate the danger of you losing the few tools that you do have access to because there's no winning without it. But Legends ZA does not require that in the same way. And in everything from catching Pokemon to boss battles, there's no clean rule to add or change in order to make that better. For example, if I said that I had to have a Pokemon out of its Pokeball at all times, then you're completely ignoring the system the game is designed around. It's advantageous to you as a player to run away with your Pokemon when the Megas are using big AoE attacks or you're being attacked by a swarm of wild Pokemon all at once, or better yet, just recall your Pokemon and get yourself out of danger. Mega mechanics even work with this idea, saving your Mega energy when you do recall your Pokemon, so you can send them back out in full force once the coast is clear. If you play with this rule, there are times when you're essentially forcing a Pokemon to die for no real reason because there's no other way to dodge the incoming attack. The game expects you to recall your Pokemon in these situations. Or even simpler yet, you're just further incentivizing yourself to run away from danger more often than you would ever interact with it. In the wild areas, rooftop sewers, wherever you're running into your wild Pokemon, the game does not expect you to encounter each and every one of them with a Pokemon of your own, like you would have to do in any previous title. Now, you can, absolutely, obviously, but the game makes no distinction between a wild battle and just being in the overworld. And I love that, actually. The game feels seamless, it feels alive, and more real than any title that's come before it. And that doesn't work for a Nuzlocke. But what about all the rest of the fights? I hear you asking. Well, truth be told, there's only about a dozen of them, plus the endgame boss fight. But none of them are particularly difficult when you can kind of bulldoze through them with easy to obtain megas, and their movesets don't really account for coverage very well. Even if you try to attempt these fights without Mega Pokemon, well, that's kind of fine too, because any strong super effective attack just kinda works. Regular trainers that you fight in the ZA Royale barely count as characters in this game when most battles start with your surprise attack taking out their lead Pokemon right from the very beginning. You can also really cheese trainer fights and any mandatory wild battles you need to do by hiding behind cover and spamming status moves which raise your Mega Bar, allowing you to have a new Mega Evolution for literally every fight if you so choose. In the ZA Royale in particular, you can even leave the zone at any time to heal in between fights. These are all cheap options, but they're optimal. In a game where survival is all that matters, you use these tactics if they ensure victory. Speaking of Megas, let's touch on them too. The carry for most of my casual run was Mega Lopunny. Power-up punch, headbutt, and 2 of my choice of elemental punches as needed, she was the MVP for sure and soloed plenty of fights on her own. The few that she had a bad matchup into, Mega Mawile has a massively high attack stat, actually even buffed in this game because she lost huge power, and for some reason Swords Dance is still completely broken. When most trainers only have 3 to 4 Pokemon, 1 attack boost and a Mega Evolution is often enough to win the game from the very start because you'll keep both of those buffs through all of their team. You know who else was MVP for me? Camerupt. Don't ask how or why, I just needed a ground or a fire type sometimes, and he always filled both niches. And this was me memeing with lower tiered Mega Pokemon, right? At least I thought that I was. My Greninjite, Gardevoirite, and Venusaurite are still sitting unused in that file. And I did that on purpose to try and actively hinder myself. I wanted to use the lower tier Mega Pokemon to see how they would stack up in the game instead of just trying to breeze through everybody with the highest tier Megas, right? But those stronger possible Mega Evolution Pokemon are all guaranteed encounters in the game as well, if you allow gifts in your challenge. But let's ignore gift Pokemon for a second because that's a whole nother can of worms. To use these Megas and good Pokemon in general, you have to actually get the good Pokemon in the first place, but encounters are random in a Nuzlocke, right? Wrong! In Legends ZA, as best as I can gather, each of your encounters would come from either named areas or wild zones. But even better than that, most of the wild zones are at least vaguely type-themed. Are you worried about Kanari's team of pure electric type Pokemon? Well, go get your free ground type. Camerupt is really good here, by the way, if I didn't already make that clear. You can also get a Hippowdon or Excadrill within her level cap, I'm pretty sure. This line of thinking applies to every promotion fight, and it's clearly done on purpose to give the players answers to whatever they're facing next should they so desire to go after them. In previous Pokemon games, wild encounters are truly random because you don't know what you're gonna see pop out of the grass. But that's been a thing of the past in recent titles. I've seen everything from blindfolds to wheel spins to try and still pick random encounters, but you know what I've seen far more of? Is just whatever the player runs into first. Meaning, regardless of what the player sees first on the route, whatever they first decide to encounter in battle becomes their first encounter for the Nuzlocke. You just give yourself the entire area for whatever encounter you think you might need for the moment. And even if you disagree with that encounter logic specifically, it circles back on each area in Legends ZA having vague type themes. Sure, there's an off chance that you might get a Machop from the Ice type area, but it's far more likely for you to get Snorunt, Snover, or Bergmite, isn't it? I think you can also get Go-Goat there, but whatever. Going back purely to in-game mechanics though, how do you even count a wild encounter in this game in the first place? Like I said, the game makes no distinction between you just being in the world and being in a wild battle, right? In Legends Arceus, though multiple Pokemon could try and attack you at once, you could still actually enter a battle with a Pokemon to start your encounter. No such thing in this game. If 10 Pokemon are chasing you all at once, guess what, buddy? Any Pokemon you send out is fighting those 10 Pokemon too. Are all 10 of those wild Pokemon your first encounter? I have no real idea how to fairly judge that. But all of this ignores my biggest issue, the one at the top, the fact that half of the missions in this game, the ones revolving around rogue mega Pokemon, the gimmick of the region and the game, and the over-the-top amazing boss fights they force you into that truly are fun, require little to no player input at all. They'll largely resolve on their own if you give them enough time. And this does apply to the endgame too, those of you who have beaten the game already. I'm not showing anything or talking much for spoilers, but like, you have partners for all rogue mega fights. The final endgame boss is literally the only one you take on alone, but I did it deathless and it wasn't a Nuzlocke. That's not me bragging or anything, just attack the left one first and don't be afraid to recall Pokemon before they get hit. if you know, you know. Trainer battles in this game, combat in general, is super fun and I love it. But it's only something you can enjoy if you actively engage with the game's systems. Otherwise, the low power level makes it a bit of a breeze for challenge runs. And probably most importantly, compared to the sheer amount of dialogue and running you have to do between the few actual trainer battles that there are that mean something to you as a player, combined with the strategies that you would have to deploy to be playing the game, as I've said far too many times now, optimally, it just isn't worth the time. Mega Pokemon are fun and I love that they are back, but they are overpowered for all in-game battles, almost even more than they were in X and Y. Using the signature mechanic of the game just puts you too far ahead of the rest of the competition, even the competition that's using Megas themselves. All competition that is, except for the rogue Mega Pokemon, which, as we've established, don't actually require you to really fight them much at all. And I want to put out there once more, I'm presenting these issues and problems I personally have with the game to how they equate to the standard rules of a Nuzlocke. Rules that I am sure can, and now will probably have to, change for this title and likely future ones. To try and fit this game into a traditional Nuzlocke mold just takes too much away from the game as it is. You'd have to, what? Can't sneak attack trainers, Pokemon must always be out, wheel spin for a random encounter in each zone, can only catch fainted Pokemon, that probably makes sense, can't run from combat, can't catch alpha Pokemon, no switching to avoid damage, no Mega Pokemon, no dodging attacks, no status moves, no Canary plushies, no gift Pokemon, no plus moves, no Taco Tuesday, and no more Christmas. I could go on, but I won't. There's always going to be those Nuzlocke purists out there, and I'm gonna be clear right now, this channel ain't for you. Because if you're also looking at this game purely through the lens of what a Nuzlocke is in other games, then you're going to come to the same conclusions I did. And that's not fun. And I am always going to pick fun over correct. If, and likely when, I come up with my own rules for a Nuzlocke of Legends ZA, it's going to be different. It's going to use the systems of the game in ways that are fun and interesting instead of just shunning them entirely. In the meantime, I'm happy to try other goofy challenges with it, like this one I took on recently on stream, where I had to get rid of all my Pokemon money and items every 3 in-game days, and it was great. It was casual, maybe, but still challenging in a way that felt very involved, and I loved it. A video on that coming soon. My point is, Pokemon games are easy. They always have been, let's be real, but at the very least, they have always required me to play them until today. To all my fellow Nuzlockers and content creators, I know some of you are in the process right now of hobbling together your own versions of challenge runs for this game, and that there's still others of you out there like me that are still struggling with it. Whatever your take on the game or any of the points that I have brought up here, I would love to continue to have that conversation with you, so please leave me a comment, hit me up on Discord. I would love to work through these questions together or discuss some of the finer points of it with all of you. I love Legends ZA. Cannot stress that enough. This is not me dogging on the game at all. It is legitimately my third favorite Pokemon game to date, going behind Shadows of Almia and then XD Yellow Darkness because I'm based. And if you actually engage with the systems of the game, Legends ZA is legitimately good. I don't think you're wrong to criticize its flaws. I will happily go on record to say it has many, but that doesn't stop it from being fun. That said, I also love Nuzlockes. Obviously, I like restrictions that force creative problem solving because that is also fun. But when the problem solving becomes more frustrating than it does interesting, maybe it's okay to admit that there was never really a problem in the first place. Nuzlockes are meant to add to the experience of the game, not take away from it. It's okay to like two different things and them not be compatible together. I've never put peanut butter on my sushi before, after all. Although, now that I've said that out loud, I'm starting to feel hungry, so if I get sick in a few days, we know why. My point is, I just wanted to express how I feel as somebody who takes on these challenges, as somebody who enjoys making videos about them, how I feel about the new game from that perspective. And with that perspective shared, my view is that the game is great, it is fun, but it just doesn't work the same way that previous titles have. That is, in my opinion, an overall good thing. But I also think because of that, I'll be back to regular Nuzlocke content in older Pokemon games sooner than I expected after this release. And that's totally okay, because sometimes a game is just meant to be enjoyed in the moment. Thanks for watching, y'all. See ya.